Imagine walking into a room where the walls themselves glow like captured sunlight, where 6 tons of amber panels shimmer in shades of honey, gold, and burnt orange, where mirrors multiply the light into infinity and precious gems sparkle like stars frozen in fossilized resin. Now imagine that room vanishing without a trace, disappearing so completely that 70 years of searching, thousands of investigators, and millions of dollars couldn't find even a single fragment. This isn't fantasy. This was real. This was the Amber Room, called the eighth wonder of the world, and its disappearance remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The year is 1701. Friedrich I, newly crowned King of Prussia, wants something spectacular to announce his kingdom's arrival as a major European power. His court architect proposes an idea so audacious it borders on madness: an entire room paneled in amber. Not wood, not marble, not even gold, but amber. That strange substance formed from ancient tree resin hardened over millions of years, trapping insects and prehistoric forest inside. It's beautiful, fragile, difficult to work with, and phenomenally expensive. A room made of amber would be like building a palace out of diamonds. But Friedrich loves impossible. He commissions the project. The Danish amber craftsman Gottfried Wolfram begins the painstaking work. Every piece must be carefully selected, cut, and polished. Amber is tricky. Too much heat and it cracks, too much pressure and it shatters. For 10 years, Wolfram and his team work, creating amber panels decorated with elaborate Baroque designs. They add mirrors to multiply the effect. They incorporate gold leaf and precious stones. Slowly, incredibly, the impossible room takes shape. Friedrich dies in 1713 before seeing it completed. His son, Friedrich Wilhelm I, a practical soldier king, sees the Amber Room as expensive frivolity. The panels sit in storage until 1716, when Peter the Great of Russia visits Prussia. The two rulers meet, negotiate, forge an alliance. Peter tours Friedrich Wilhelm's collections and discovers the Amber Room in a warehouse. Even incomplete, even in storage, it takes his breath away. Friedrich Wilhelm, who never wanted the room anyway, sees a chance to cement his Russian alliance. He offers the Amber Room as a gift. Think about that. An entire room, 10 years of masterwork, 6 tons of amber given away. But this is how power operates. The Amber Room isn't just art anymore. It's diplomacy solidified into glowing panels of fossilized resin. The room is shipped to St. Petersburg in 18 large boxes. Peter installs it in the Winter Palace, but his daughter, Empress Elizabeth, has grander plans. In 1755, she moves it to the Catherine Palace in Tsarskoye Selo. The room is too small for its new space, so she commissions expansion. Russian craftsmen work for 10 years, adding amber panels, mirrors, gold, mosaics of agate and jasper. The room grows to nearly 100 square meters. More than 6 tons of amber now cover the walls, supplemented by gold leaf worth $12 million in today's currency. When complete, visitors describe feeling like they're standing inside a jewel box. The walls seem to breathe light, changing color as the sun moves, glowing warm as honey in candlelight. For nearly 200 years, the Amber Room sits in the Catherine Palace. Emperors hold court there. Catherine the Great meditates there. It becomes legend. And then comes 1941. On June 22nd, Germany launches Operation Barbarossa, invading the Soviet Union with 3 million soldiers, the largest military invasion in history. The Nazis race toward Leningrad. Catherine Palace curators watch the German advance with horror. They have days, maybe hours, to save Russia's treasures. They begin evacuating everything portable. But the Amber Room presents a unique problem. You can't just pack up the Amber Room. The amber panels are fixed to the walls with complex supports and frames. They're fragile. After 2 centuries on the walls, the amber has become one with the structure. The curators try disassembling it anyway. They work frantically, but pieces begin to crack and crumble. Removing it quickly might mean destroying it. They make a desperate decision: hide it instead. They cover the amber panels with wallpaper, trying to disguise the room as something ordinary, something not worth looting. It doesn't work. The Germans reach Tsarskoye Selo in September. They're not ordinary soldiers. They're art experts from the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, the Nazi organization tasked with looting Europe's cultural treasures. They know exactly what they're looking for. The wallpaper fools them for maybe 5 minutes. They peel it away and find the legendary amber room, exactly where intelligence said it would be. They bring in specialists. In just 36 hours, they disassemble what took craftsmen decades to build. They're not gentle, but they're thorough. Every amber panel, every decoration, every piece gets packed into 27 crates. The empty room they leave behind is just another chamber with bare walls. The soul of the Catherine Palace is gone. The crates are shipped to Königsberg Castle in East Prussia. The castle director, Alfred Rohde, unpacks and displays the amber room. By December 1941, just 3 months after its theft, the amber room is reassembled in Königsberg, part of Hitler's plan for a super museum of plundered European art. For 2 years, the room sits there. German officers visit. Photographs are taken. Reports are filed. Everything documented with German efficiency. The room exists. It's real. It's accounted for. But by 1943, the war is turning. The Soviets are pushing back. Allied bombers are reaching deeper into Germany. Königsberg is now in danger. In August 1944, British bombers devastate Königsberg in 2 massive raids. The castle burns. Alfred Rohde reports that the amber room was disassembled and hidden before the bombing, moved to safety. But where? He never tells. Rohde and his wife both die in February 1945, months before war's end. Officially, typhus. Unofficially, no one knows. They take their secrets to the grave. Soviet forces storm Königsberg in April 1945. They find the castle in ruins. They search every room, every cellar, every hidden space. They find many looted artworks. They find documentation about the amber room's arrival and display. But the room itself? Gone. 27 crates containing 6 tons of amber and gold, one of the world's most recognizable treasures, have vanished completely. And this is where the real mystery begins. The amber room is too big to simply lose. It's not a painting you can roll up. It's not jewelry you can pocket. It's 27 large crates weighing several tons. Moving it requires vehicles, workers, paperwork. In Nazi Germany, with its obsession with documentation, things don't just disappear. Everything is recorded, filed, stamped, archived. Except this. The Soviet Union launches history's most extensive treasure hunt. For decades, investigators follow leads across Europe. Every theory gets explored. Every rumor gets checked. The search consumes resources, careers, and lives. Finding the amber room becomes more than recovery. It becomes national pride, Cold War obsession, a symbol of everything the Nazis stole and never returned. The first theory, the amber room burned in the castle fire. The British bombing was devastating. Much of the castle was destroyed. Maybe the room was still inside, despite Rohde's claims. But amber doesn't just vanish when it burns. It leaves traces, melted residue, distinctive ash, charred fragments. Soviet investigators sift through tons of debris. They find nothing, not a single piece of amber. If 6 tons burned there, it left no evidence. Second theory, it's still in Königsberg, hidden in tunnels beneath the ruined castle. Königsberg Castle sits on medieval foundations riddled with underground passages and hidden chambers. The Nazis used these spaces. Maybe Rohde didn't lie. Maybe the room is there, never found. Extensive searches using ground-penetrating radar have scanned the area repeatedly. They found old tunnels, hidden chambers, no amber room. Third theory involves the chaos of war's final months. By early 1945, Germany was collapsing. The Soviet army approached from the east. German civilians and soldiers fled west. In this chaos, the Amber Room might have been loaded onto a ship, part of the massive evacuation from East Prussia. Several ships were sunk by Soviet submarines, most famously the Wilhelm Gustloff, with over 9,000 people aboard. If the Amber Room was on one of these ships, it's now at the bottom of the Baltic. Several expeditions have searched. They found wrecks, no amber. Now, if you're following this mystery as closely as I am, if you want updates on the latest discoveries about lost treasures like this, make sure you subscribe, because investigators have spent decades piecing together fragments of evidence, and we're going to keep following every lead. Hit that subscribe button, because trust me, this gets stranger. Fourth theory, secret location. The Amber Room was moved from Königsberg before bombing, transported to a secure hiding place. But where? Germany is big, and the Nazis had 4 years to hide it anywhere. The most popular candidate, salt mines. The Nazis used abandoned salt mines to store looted art. Salt mines are perfect. Stable temperature, low humidity, secure. Allied forces found thousands of stolen artworks in salt mines after the war, but despite searching dozens of mines, no one has found the Amber Room. In 1997, 2 German treasure hunters, Karl-Heinz Klein and Georg Stein, claimed they'd found it in an underground bunker in eastern Germany. They'd located it using ground-penetrating radar and archival research. They announced excavation would begin soon. 10 days later, both men were dead. Klein died in a car crash. Stein's body was found in a forest, ruled heart attack. The bunker location was never excavated. Coincidence? Maybe. At least 3 people who claimed to know the Amber Room's location died under mysterious circumstances. In 1991, Russian investigator Yuri Gusev, who claimed documentary evidence of the room's location, died in a car accident the day before presenting his findings. In 2003, Italian art dealer Silvio Murata, who claimed to have a piece of the Amber Room, was murdered in his office. His killers were never found. Fifth theory, deliberate destruction. As the Third Reich collapsed, some Nazis destroyed evidence of their crimes. Maybe someone decided the Amber Room was evidence too dangerous to leave intact. If recovered, it could be traced back to reveal who stole it, who profited, who collaborated. Destroying it removes that evidence. But destroying 6 tons of amber leaves traces. No one's found them. Sixth theory, the room left Germany entirely. Some investigators believe it was moved to Austria or Czechoslovakia in the war's final months. Others think further, South America, where many Nazis fled. Did someone ship the Amber Room across the Atlantic? In 2008, a tip led investigators to an Argentine villa once owned by a Nazi officer. They found looted artwork, not the Amber Room, but it proved the concept was possible. Seventh theory gives investigators nightmares. The room was broken up and sold piece by piece. You can't sell the whole room, it's too famous, but individual pieces? Those could be quietly sold to private collectors over decades. In 1997, a German named Otto Weidinger tried to sell an amber mosaic to Christie's. The piece was identified as part of the Amber Room's original decoration. Weidinger claimed his father received it from a German officer at war's end. The German government seized the piece. They found nothing else. If this one piece survived separately, how many others are out there? In 1979, the Soviet government launched a project to recreate the Amber Room from scratch. It would take 24 years. Russian craftsmen studied every photograph, every description, every surviving documentation. They learned old techniques. They sourced amber from the same Baltic regions. They worked with obsessive attention to detail. In 2003, on St. Petersburg's 300th anniversary, the reconstructed Amber Room was unveiled. It's magnificent. Visitors can now see what was lost. But it's not the original, and that matters. The reconstructed room tells us what it looked like. The lost original tells a story about war, theft, obsession, and how objects haunt us across generations. Because here's what makes the Amber Room different from other lost treasures. We know it existed. We have photographs. We have eyewitness accounts from people who saw it both in Russia before the war and in Königsberg during it. We have German documentation of its seizure and transport. We know what day it was packed. We know which train carried it. We know where it was displayed. The paper trail is extensive and detailed. And then, suddenly, it stops. No documentation of destruction, no evidence of survival. It's as if the Amber Room reached a certain point and ceased to exist in any documented form. This drives investigators mad. The room is too big to hide easily, too valuable to destroy casually, too famous to sell openly, too well documented to vanish by accident. Every logical possibility has a fatal flaw. It should be somewhere. Someone should know something. And yet, 75 years after it disappeared, the Amber Room remains missing. Let's examine an uncomfortable possibility. What if someone already found it? What if it's sitting in a private collection, hidden from public view? This happens with stolen art. Wealthy collectors, unable to display illicitly acquired masterpieces publicly, build private galleries where they enjoy treasures in secret. They know the artworks are stolen. They don't care. The pleasure of ownership outweighs moral concerns. Could the Amber Room have ended up this way? Disturbingly possible. And if so, we might never know. The search could continue for centuries while the object sits in a climate-controlled basement, admired only by its owner. This scenario horrifies historians because it means the treasure is effectively lost, even though it exists. Knowledge that could be gained from studying original amberwork techniques, information about 18th century craftsmanship, historical data embedded in the materials, all becomes inaccessible. Art in secret collections serves no one except the collector. It can't be studied, can't be enjoyed publicly, can't fulfill its purpose of connecting people across time and culture. If the Amber Room's fate is secret ownership, that might be worse than its destruction. The Soviet Union treated finding the Amber Room as national importance. They formed special investigative units. They interviewed thousands of German prisoners of war. They searched systematically through German archives. They followed tips from informants who claimed to know exactly where it was, usually for a price. Every lead went nowhere. In the 1990s, after the Soviet collapse, the search intensified. Private treasure hunters joined. The German government funded investigations. International teams used cutting-edge technology. Ground-penetrating radar scanned likely hiding spots. Sonar mapped the Baltic Sea floor. Chemical analysis tested soil samples. Metal detectors swept former Nazi bunkers. Every few years, someone announces they found it. Permission is sought. Equipment is assembled. Excavation begins. Nothing is found. The pattern repeats. What drives the search isn't just monetary value, though it's estimated at $500 million. It's not even historical significance, though recovering it would fill a major gap in understanding World War II's cultural destruction. What drives the search is the mystery itself. The Amber Room represents every question about the war we still can't answer. It symbolizes everything lost and never recovered. It reminds us that even in our documented, photographed, archived modern world, things can still vanish completely. Consider the psychology of obsession. The Amber Room has consumed careers. Investigators have spent decades searching, some their entire adult lives. They've followed leads across continents. They've learned to read old German documents. They've studied geology, chemistry, history, archaeology. They've invested money they didn't have in excavations that found nothing. Why? Because the Amber Room offers something rare, a solvable mystery. It existed. Someone, somewhere, knows or knew something. The information exists if you can only find it. Modern treasure hunting uses technology previous generations couldn't imagine. Artificial intelligence scans archival documents far faster than humans, looking for patterns and connections. Ground-penetrating radar sees deeper with more resolution. Chemical analysis detects amber residue in soil samples. Satellite imagery identifies disturbed earth or unusual structures. Crowdsourcing allows thousands of amateur investigators to examine historical records, bringing fresh eyes to old evidence. Every year, the tools improve. But technology isn't enough. The Amber Room is fundamentally a human mystery. It disappeared because people made decisions to hide it, move it, keep secrets. Finding it requires understanding those human choices, getting into the minds of people now dead, imagining what they might have done in desperate circumstances. The best investigators are ones who can think like their subjects, who can imagine themselves in Nazi-occupied Königsberg in 1945 and ask, if I needed to hide 6 tons of irreplaceable artwork, where would I put it? The Amber Room isn't unique. Thousands of Nazi-looted artworks remain missing. Entire museum collections vanished. Private holdings were stolen. Libraries were emptied. The Amber Room is simply the most famous. Organizations devoted to recovering looted art work constantly, tracking pieces, verifying provenance, reuniting artworks with rightful owners. It's painstaking work, complicated by time passing, deaths of witnesses, destruction of records, legal complexities. But it continues because it matters. Every recovered artwork is a small victory. The Amber Room would be the biggest victory. If the Amber Room is found, recovery logistics would be complex. If underground, excavation must avoid damaging fragile amber. If submerged, preservation becomes critical. If stored improperly, damage is inevitable, requiring restoration. Experts would verify authenticity because many false leads and hoaxes have emerged. Scientific analysis would confirm whether panels are genuinely original or clever replicas. Security becomes paramount. The room would be the most valuable recovered artwork in history. Then comes display. Does it return to Catherine Palace, installed alongside or replacing the reconstruction? Does it travel to museums worldwide? Does it get divided, with panels going to different museums to maximize public access? These decisions would involve Russia, Germany, international cultural organizations, probably the United Nations. Diplomatic negotiations might take years, but wonderful problems to have because they would mean the Amber Room has been found. Imagine being the person who finds it. You're doing something routine, construction or exploring tunnels. You break through a wall and there they are, wooden crates marked with German military insignia. You open one and amber glows back at you, panels of fossilized sunshine that haven't seen light in 75 years. You realize what you found. You're about to become famous. Your name will be in history books. But more than personal fame, you'll have solved one of history's greatest mysteries. You'll have proved that hope wasn't foolish, that persistence matters, that some lost things can be found. That moment would be worth more than the room's monetary value. But we're not there yet. The Amber Room remains lost. Somewhere, possibly, 27 crates sit in darkness, their contents slowly deteriorating, or perhaps perfectly preserved depending on conditions. Or perhaps they don't exist anymore, destroyed by fire or time or deliberate action. We don't know. That's what makes this mystery instead of history. The uncertainty is both frustrating and fascinating. So where is it? After all these theories, what's most likely? Here's my assessment. I think the Amber Room survived the bombing. I think it was moved from Königsberg in the war's final months when it became clear the city would fall.
I think it was hidden, but not in obvious locations like salt mines or bunkers that would be searched. I think it was hidden by someone who knew it would be valuable after the war, someone who planned to retrieve or sell it eventually. And I think that person died, either in the war or in chaos immediately after, before passing on the location. The Amber Room is somewhere, in a basement or underground chamber or hidden facility, in a location known to no living person. It's been there 75 years, sitting in darkness, waiting. One day, someone will stumble across it while doing something completely unrelated. They'll break through a wall during a renovation or excavate for construction or explore a tunnel system. And they'll find 27 crates that have been sitting there since 1944. That's my theory. It's probably wrong. Every theory about the Amber Room is probably wrong, because if any were right, we'd have found it. But I maintain hope, because the alternative, that it was destroyed or scattered forever, is too depressing. Something that beautiful deserves to be found. The Amber Room remains the world's most famous missing treasure. It's a mystery that refuses to be solved, a question that refuses to be answered, a story that refuses to end. The search continues across Germany and Russia and everywhere between. Someone, somewhere, is following a lead right now. They're convinced they know where it is. They've found a document, heard a story, noticed something in old photographs everyone else missed. They're making plans. They're seeking funding or permission or partners. They're certain this time will be different. They're probably wrong. But maybe, just maybe, they're right. And when the Amber Room is finally found, if it's ever found, it will be news around the world. Museums will compete to display it. Scientists will study it. Historians will write about where it was and how it survived. Artists will marvel at 18th century craftsmanship still glowing after centuries. And investigators who spent their lives searching will feel validation for years of work everyone said was pointless. Until then, the Amber Room remains lost, hidden somewhere, or destroyed, or scattered, or sitting in darkness waiting. It's a mystery that defines an era, a treasure that haunts imagination, a question that demands an answer. Think about what it means to search for something for 75 years. That's longer than most human lifespans. People have been born, lived entire careers devoted to finding the Amber Room, and died without seeing it. Families have inherited the obsession. Children grow up hearing about it, become investigators themselves, pass the torch to their own children. It's become a generational quest, a relay race where each runner hands off without ever reaching the finish line. And yet, they keep running. What does that persistence tell us about human nature? I think it's hope. Hope that the work matters, that effort isn't wasted, that somewhere at the end there's an answer waiting. Hope keeps people searching for lost cities, for missing persons, for cures to diseases, for answers to questions that seem unanswerable. The Amber Room is one manifestation of this fundamental human drive, the refusal to accept that something precious is lost forever. Consider the economics. Millions of dollars have been spent looking for the Amber Room. That money could have built schools, funded medical research, fed hungry people. Is it justified? Is an 18th century art piece worth that expenditure when so many pressing needs go unmet? The answer depends on what you believe treasures are for. If art exists only for aesthetic pleasure, maybe the reconstruction is enough. But if art connects us to history, if it represents human achievement at its finest, if it stands as refutation of those who would destroy beauty, then recovering the original Amber Room has value beyond monetary worth. It becomes a statement that we care about preserving beauty, that we won't let theft and destruction have the final word. The Amber Room also raises questions about ownership. Russia claims it because it was in a Russian palace when stolen. Germany argues it was originally Prussian, given as a gift, making status complicated. Should it go back to Russia? Should it be displayed in Germany? Should it perhaps be considered international heritage, property of all humanity? These questions remained theoretical while the room stayed lost, but what happens if it's found? Legal battles will be intense. Multiple countries will claim ownership. Private finders will demand compensation. Museums will compete to house it. Diplomatic complications could be enormous. And here's an uncomfortable question. What if it's already been found? What if it's sitting in a private collection, hidden from public view? Wealthy collectors, unable to display illicitly acquired masterpieces publicly, build private galleries in their homes. They know the artworks are stolen. They don't care. The pleasure of ownership outweighs moral concerns. Could the Amber Room have ended up this way? Disturbingly possible, and if so, we might never know. Let's examine some exotic theories, because in the absence of facts, imagination fills the void. One persistent story claims the Amber Room was loaded onto a Nazi submarine in the war's final days and transported to South America, probably Argentina. Nazi submarines did make it to Argentina. German communities there did harbor fugitive Nazis. The basic infrastructure exists, but submarines are small. Carrying 6 tons of amber panels would take enormous space, leaving little room for fuel or crew. It's technically possible, but highly impractical. No credible evidence supports this, but it persists because it's exciting. Another theory involves the Vatican.
Some investigators believe the Amber Room was smuggled to Vatican City with other art treasures the Nazis wanted to preserve. The Vatican has extensive storage facilities and a documented history of protecting artworks during wartime. If someone wanted to hide the room where it wouldn't be disturbed or searched, the Vatican would be excellent. Problems are numerous. The Vatican has cooperated with investigations into Nazi-looted art. They've returned pieces when ownership could be established. Why would they hold the Amber Room? What would they gain? And logistically, how would it have gotten there in the war's final chaotic months? A more recent theory involves DNA analysis. Amber preserves organic material remarkably well. Every piece is slightly different depending on where and when resin formed. If pieces of the Amber Room could be analyzed at molecular level, they might have a unique signature, a chemical fingerprint identifying fragments, even if separated from main panels. This could theoretically help identify pieces if they turn up in art markets or private collections. The challenge is needing a known piece from the Amber Room to establish baseline. The small mosaic recovered in 1997 is one. This approach might not find the entire room, but it could confirm fragments, which would at least answer whether the room survived or was destroyed. The reconstruction itself deserves attention. When Russian craftsmen began rebuilding in 1979, they faced enormous challenges. Original construction techniques had been lost. Specific amber types came from sources no longer existing. Decorative details visible in photographs had to be precisely replicated without examining originals. It was like trying to rebuild a computer from a single photograph with no documentation of how it worked internally. The craftsmen had to become historians, archaeologists, and detectives as well as artists. They studied every available image, every description, every measurement. They experimented with amber working techniques until they matched 18th century quality.